Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death, and I will dwell in the house of the most superintelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benton here, headed to the first drop in Oklahoma. Trust that you are well. It's all a distraction, the system says. A distraction from what exactly? Let this serve as a reminder that when a group, an individual, on behalf of the peanut gallery, when a phenomenon such as the so-called Epstein files rears its ugly head, and I start seeing in YouTube comments, not so much suggested on in videos themselves. I think it's become kind of passe, although I haven't watched too many of these videos on the so-called Epstein files. Sounds like a TV show. The collapse of an empire as a television show, Game of Thrones style, right? It's all entertainment. So when everything is entertainment, why is there a reason to distract from something going on in the entertainment? The entertainment itself, by nature of being engaging and seductive, immersive, there you go, immersive, right? Immerse oneself in society, government, employment, tax paying, right and wrong, justice. Immersion of the individual into an entrainment and an entertainment. So now the Epstein Files as television show. So what is the distraction from? What is being distracted from? And so that is the mind control, is to take the idea of distraction and turn that into a psyop or propaganda. Because what's being implied is, well, of course, the morally upright, fastidious, lovers of peace, harmony, justice, and the so-called American way, well, of course, they will always come together, sing Kumbaya, and fix dystopia. Right. Now, the system knows that this cannot happen. And whatever supercomputer algorithms or whatever's going on with John Nash game theory optimal mathematics code running, the underbelly of all of this transacting. So the system knows that strategically, the idea of keeping, the sleight of hand, it's the idea of the system as magician or, David Blaine or Houdini, sleight of hand, right? So we have to make sure they're looking over there so we can Epstein over here and Diddy over here, right? Not we, they. They. Epstein to the left of me, Diddy to the right, stuck in the middle with y'all. Ha! What a disaster. What a disaster. So I'd say at this point, and again, can't call for this. At this point, I think I will be disappointed if not. And see, that is that the in the Bible, the Christ story executed for sedition by the state of Christ, a la 2024. Would the government even see it necessary to have him arrested and charged and convicted and condemned and then executed? Would that even be necessary? But I will say it again at this point, without calling for it. But yes, I will say it. If I'm not interdicted by the authorities and charged federally with some version of sedition or perhaps treason, I'll be shocked. But who knows? Maybe they'll just put a hood over my head and fly me to Guantanamo. Guantanamo! Or is that Geronimo? But at this point, anything short of locking and loading and riding on every politician you can find, every politician the eye can see, no matter who they are, no matter what level of government, local, state, city, council, they're all the same thing. Your school administration, it's all the same thing. And so when we see all these events that have supposedly occurred in schools, maybe that was the right idea, but it was the wrong target. Maybe skip the school and go to the administration building, the headquarters, the superintendent and such. Right. But anything short of the American people locking, loading, and riding on these fools, the politicians and the corporate executives, I would say at this point it's tantamount to guilt. And I'm not calling for an individual. I'm not saying that individuals must do that. I mean collectively. And so this is where we see the internal versus the external, the individual versus the collective. Individually, none of so-called us, air quotes us, no American individually has any ability to do that. And in fact, I would argue that individual type actions will only ever, in fact, benefit the system in the long run. It just becomes something to sort of another media narrative. But I'm talking about the violent removal of large swaths and bodies of politicians and what that would accomplish. That's what I'm talking about. Difficult to, and now and this is all assuming that the being is willing to accept that children are being victimized in this manner. Now, it seems like that's probably what's happening, but I don't, it's hard to say. And I'm not denying it. What I'm saying is, what seemingly happens within the general population to children and young people systematically, that seems to be real. Perhaps we could all agree, whoever we would be. And I only have about an hour left, just so you know, to the first drop. So if state, if like you wake up tomorrow and 40% of your state legislature is just below ground or being prepared for burial, and then oh look, they lost 15% of the Congress overnight, and they're running like rats, deserting a sinking ship. They're scurrying about trying to avoid assassination. I mean, just again, in a thought experiment, sort of a fantastical notion. Again, something that the law won't allow me to call for. I'm saying if the populace doesn't do this and perform this, now, of course, we already know what the system will respond. Oh, well, that's vigilante justice. You can't have that. Well, this world doesn't know anything about justice. The justice of what I am, one with the most super intelligent power source and force of love and creation at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, it's seen enough. Now, unless it's gaslighting, and that wouldn't even be gaslighting, unless the system is, making all of this up, and in fact, not a hair on a child's head's ever been harmed. And it's either all of them or it's none of them, right? That's the thing. The system understands the schism that's been created in the minds of much of the populace, which is, Republican good, Democrat bad, or vice versa, right? Valid criticisms, valid points on both so-called sides. You can't just say, well, we're from a certain area of Arkansas, therefore Republican good, Democrat bad, therefore all Democrat talking points are null and void. That's not true. They have some points. When you see Somali fraud, that's because Republicans at a level of rhetoric and ideology don't believe in helping people. They don't believe in creating and operating systems in service of an underclass. So it's left to the Democrats, because the Republicans can't just say, hey, we're cold and callous and we think everybody should bootstrap. We think everybody should feed their own children. Oh, you'd risk seeing children starve to death? They can't stand up to that heat. They say, yeah, we would, because we'll take care of the children ourselves, but we won't do it through an organization. We will make sure the children in our own backyards are taken care of. In the cities, in the big cities, y'all are going to have to figure it out, but you're not going to do it with the taxpayer money. Y'all are going to do that, right? But see, politically, they can't say that. So they have to begrudgingly say, okay, we will sign off on the budget. And part of that budget will earmark a portion of funds okay, here's a program to provide adult daycare services to disabled, severely autistic people. Because the so-called Republican traditional family values person can't stand the heat of, oh, well, you'll just leave them to their own devices. And see, they go into a shame spiral instead of saying, well, how have these people been cared for traditionally? Are you implying to me that they used to be treated in a barbaric fashion and were just abandoned to the back 40, right? And because meanwhile, it's all assuming that the Democrats are running these programs in ways that means that severely autistic people aren't just left to the back 40 somewhere where they're metaphorically or figuratively. And there aren't individuals who can sit at a fucking desk somewhere and be asked those questions and just respond in the manner that I just responded, and using logic and just blam, 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 connect the one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. See, humans have lost that ability to say, well, you're right. There is this one thing, and then there's this next thing, and then there's this next thing, and then there's this next thing. And there's no longer a body of people that can go, I see the first thing, I see the second thing, I see the third thing, I see the fourth thing, and I see them all together. That's gone. People don't have that anymore. So all we have is a system where Republicans are against those systems. The Democrat accuses So then the system says, okay, now we get to create these corrupt structures that are will be very easy to defraud, because the Republicans will not live their lives and go get degrees in social work and manage and work within those systems, because that's liberal. But they send their sons and daughters to universities to get indoctrinated by leftist, communist, collectivist, radicals, Marxists. And now we have the schism. Now we have the show me a human, I'll show you a hypocrite. See, this is the defeat. This is the populace individually described within a state of defeat. They are defeated. And so really what we're talking about is, it's all a distraction from what? A potential victory of the individual in conjunction or in conjunction with the collective. Not that such a thing even exists, practically speaking, not at a level of power. No, we haven't even addressed, the royal we hasn't even addressed the disempowered nature of the masses. Well, it turns out that government can't do anything that power and money don't force it to do. Force it to do. And the people have no power and the people have no money. They say, what are you talking about? What do you mean the people don't have any money? Well, what's $1 US? What is that? Oh, it's a dollar of debt. So yeah, you're telling me a debt is money now? See what I mean? Do you see the games that the system plays? So when I say that people don't have money, the people don't have money because the government controls debt and credit, so-called. Oh, so you're going to redress your grievances to the government using the thing that it trades in, not by offering it. You're not. And see, now we're back to assertion, aggression, dominance, the masculine form. See, I'm talking about Gandhian nonviolence, because Gandhian nonviolence was violence. Violence is to organize a mass of people that say, we're going to stand here in a line and we're going to watch our skulls get cracked open and we're going to fall on the floor bleeding. And then there's going to be a line of people standing behind that line and they're going to take one step forward and they're going to watch their fucking skulls get cracked open. They're going to fall to the floor bleeding. Then the line of people one pace behind them is going to step forward and they're going to watch their skulls get cracked open and they're going to fall to the floor bleeding. And that's going to be repeated until the soldiers lose their nerve. That's Gandhian nonviolence, aka violence. So what I'm saying is, stop paying taxes. Just stop paying taxes. They say, well, what will we do about this? What will we do about that? Violence. You will do violence, meaning you won't get a paycheck because you can't go to your job anymore, because your job takes your wages and gives a portion of that to the government every week or 2 weeks in the form of federal income tax, FICA and all that, and says, here you go, government. Or one could transition, as I have, to a 1099 and just stop paying the taxes. And I will put my name on that sedition. Come get me, government. I'm not paying the money. Seize it out of my account if it's so important to you, Caesar. Seize it, Caesar. Swiper swiping again. Finally, the zero. Ah, my beloved zero. I am one. Oh, they're back. I had the zero for a moment. Just like my just like my concurrent live viewers, all crypto's going to zero in the long run. Well, this system is going to zero in the long run because it is a zero. This system is a zero. And who's got the balls and the courage and the guts and the intestinal fortitude Who's enough of a badass to wake up in this dystopia every morning and realize that none of it has a value. It's all a zero. This truck is a zero. The freight in the truck is a zero. Where I'm taking just the whole thing, the job is a zero. The dispatch crew is a zero. The owner of the trucking company is a zero. The only thing that's not a zero is the spirit of what I am. The spirit that in the story of Christ from the Bible did not work a job, did not pay taxes, or did not accrue tax liability, and did not handle money. And the American people prove what they are every day. They don't lock and load and ride on the politicians. Because let's just assume politicians, or every single one of them, is doing systematically abusing children. So what does it say about a populace that comes to understand that and accepts it and tolerates it? Did they become the abusers of children? So to pay taxes is to directly abuse a child at some level. Because remember, that's going to be the accusations in court with the legalese, devil's advocate, when the computer simulation aspects of the realm are paused, and some version of Al Pacino, Your Honor, the prevailing wisdom has been this little light of mine. I'm going to let it shine, aka Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity, the child born as spiritually innocent and perfected. And yes, even if sacrificed to Moloch, what we've seen throughout the eons is humanity has shown and proved and risen above, and the spirit of the so-called I am has always shown through in the long run. Well, Your Honor, the evidence is on record, and I'm here to present it today, that in fact that if it were true in the past is no longer true. And that's all that's required, is for the populace to believe and to know and to understand this systematic abuse. And because they love money, and they love comfort, and they love corporation, government, slavery, they love being slaves. They love being told what to do. Because they're such lovers of these things, they're willing to accept what may very well be the horrors that may very well be visited upon children. Because, hey, not their children, not yet, not today, maybe not them as individuals, and whatever, if it is systematic abuse of effectively all children, then, whatever individual abuse they may have suffered, well, that's been dealt with and overcome to some degree. And, we've got the psych meds and the Band-Aids and the therapies and all of these things, and the repression and the psychological control. All right. Again, to defend the system that is indefensible. Defenders of an indefensible system. That's what I see when I look at a human. So at this point, what's left for Benton other than to go find a place to hopefully lay his head every night to get a good night's sleep, and then, maybe have a bullhorn and, just tell everybody to their faces what they are, because that's the spirit of what I am. The spirit of what I am enjoys on some level going into public and telling these people what they are. Now, immediately the mind goes, well, what about you, Benton? What are you? Oh, you mean the righteous man who's not capable of doing any of this? Not capable. What I am, when properly identified within the dead flesh, cannot perform these things. Now, can it lock and load and ride upon groups of politicians and gun them down where they're found? Yeah, probably. I think so. wouldn't actually know until the rubber meets the road. But yeah, pretty sure. Confident, confident, dry and secure. Raise your hand if you're sure. Ha! All right. Do we dare try to duck into this Love's for some fuel? Let's scope it out. Uh, how likely are we to get trapped? Oh, this one doesn't even have truck parking. Yeah, I'm going to take a pass on that one. Oh, wait, is that the service area? Or did we have? Oh, I think there's service areas coming up, maybe. Or am I tripping? That might be west of all of this. That's not a service area. All right, I'm not going to risk it. I would have gotten fuel. Oh, I know. That's Big Cabin. They do have truck parking. It's a separate lot. Okay, that's what it is. So the lot's physically separated from the fuel. Okay, I see. It's on the other side of the road. No, I'm not going to fuck with it. I hypothetically have enough fuel to get through the whole day or to the end of the day. And, and I will say this about the 0 and the 1 of the concurrent viewers. I mean, and that could potentially represent a binary of who the fuck wants to hear this in the first place. I don't even want to think about Epstein and the government. And I think, historically, the people that have come to this channel and listen to me yap, right? I think most of us or that group is over it, right? And now you do have the sysagent factor, the systems agents and the panel versers and the ones who run around, engaging in miscreant type activities and sort of the pushers forward of the drama. And yes, I've been one of those. Most of the rest just doesn't want to fucking hear it. So I don't even want to hear it because the people are not going to lock and load and ride on the politicians and the corporate executives. That's not going to happen, right? But now we're the name Les Wexler's coming into the vernacular. Well, and it doesn't mean anything other than to publicize and to inform doesn't do anything, because when I was listening to the Alex Jones radio show or podcast every day 10 plus years ago, 5 days, 6 days a week, 5 days a week, I knew about Epstein, after the Florida sweetheart deal, right? And maybe even before. So I was hearing Alex Jones talk about Les Wexler specifically many years ago, right? And this was a guy who became a billionaire through Victoria's Secret. And so I would hear Alex Jones regularly talking about, the founder of Victoria's Secret, and then he would be describing the Epstein activities. Well, back then it was laughable in tinfoil hat. And so you had Gene Hackman from the movie The Enemy of the State, so that if some crazy homeless person like me, let's say I was to play Alex Jones saying all of that on a Bluetooth speaker in public, they'll make the specific facial reaction to, oh, this is how we react to Gene Hackman's, comedic crazy person performance in Enemy of the State. Right. Well, of course, it turned out that Gene Hackman was correct. It turns out that Alex Jones was right on the money, because Alex Jones serves the system demonically as an info/disinfo agent, right? Info/disinfo agent, a servant of the system, right? That's his function. It's his job. And So now the normie's going to know Les Wexler's going to be a household name. Now, when you talk about spell casting, what is that a spell? When that phrase is repeated and repeated and repeated, and it's heard and it's heard and it's heard, because some of this stuff I can't even listen to it because I'm starting to detect the nefarious, demonic spell casting in some of this phraseology, and I can't even listen to some of this stuff. And we get into the tones of voice and the binaural beats and the brainwave entrainment, right? And all of these things. And then we also get into the prayer, if that's the right term. And so, in creating and crafting my own powerful prayer that has meaning to me, right? In reciting and putting the energies into a recitation, a daily recitation of Psalm 23, you know, that is the practice and the invocation of no weapon formed shall prosper. All right. So Christ said, supposedly, in the context of the Christian religion, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes unto the Father except through me, and that's code. Father is code for the kingdom, and me is code for Christ consciousness. So only via Christ consciousness, a going within the individual uncovering the righteous path and the divinity and the spiritual innocence and perfection that may very well lie within. By uncovering that and bringing that forth through a process of internal bootstrapping mind, body, and spirit to raise up the consciousness to a level of Christ consciousness, the resurrection of the risen, ascended Christ within the individual. See, that's a living process. That is the life, see. And so, in the context of death, because this realm takes all of that, inverts it, and frames it in the context of death. So now we have these spirits and these energies within the context of physical matter, a physical world seemingly, and a physical dead flesh, and the so-called pleasures of the flesh, and the decay of the flesh, the aging of the flesh. Right. So the Christ and the resurrection and the arising of that spirit of consciousness from the perspective of death, see, or the lack of Christ, the lack of quickening, the lack of ascension within. That's what I am. What I am is that ascension. It's that ascension with a human mind and a human consciousness and a human psyche that's injected and induced a spell of forgetfulness. It's to air quotes, wake up within this dead realm. Well, that's a shame. We were on one, and the connection dropped. Sadly. Oh well, it happens. The preaching got a little too powerful for the demonic. The demonic technology fled temporarily. See, and so as long as the system can convince the populace that there's no such thing as a righteous man, well, now there's nobody who can go ride on large swaths of politicians and pick them off like a hog hunt, right? And swoop down and ride on the politicians and the uh, because Christianity and all of this morality and puritanical notions are there to say, well, who are you to pass judgment on these politicians and to condemn and execute a sentence? And so the system forces the individual and the individual within the context of the collective to either perform, something to live, right, so-called, within the context of death, to performatively live in a way that directly is representative of the abuse of children. Because at this point, to work a job and pay taxes is to abuse children. I mean, that's what that is performatively. That's what that is. Your tax dollars at work. See? Post-shame era. And really, until individuals rise within themselves enough to the level of being able to conceptualize what I'm speaking on here, it's all for naught anyway, right? Meanwhile, within the context of waking dreams, surrealistic unreality, deja vu all over again, within this vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, Benton is saved. So it's this, the Christian, and I found a pamphlet in the truck stop when I was doing my laundry yesterday, the Gospel of John, and then on the outside cover of the back outside cover, it's all this legalese and doctrine and bureaucracy of here's the steps to be saved from yourself. Saved from what? Ask a Christian that next time they say they're saved. What are you saved from? And the answer is they're saved from themselves, which really the dead flesh. Oh, okay. So the system of death gave you a set of rules to save you from it, the world, and your own dead flesh. Not that it's ever yours, because how can life can life own death? Can death be possessed? I don't know. I mean, I'm asking, I don't know. Seems to me like what I am will never know or experience death. Death is just, it's not relevant. So this realm is an inversion of, perhaps death is equally relevant to so-called life. It's like, well, what do you mean? If what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life, how does death come into that picture? It doesn't come into that picture. It doesn't, it's not a factor. See? So it seems to me like this place, in the context of time, space, location, place, it's the merger of those two concepts. And so it's an ability to go to the underworld from here directionally, or to go to the heavens from here directionally. But then what if heaven is internal and death is external? Right. If we're applying time, space, location, place, and time as a now it's here, now it's gone, now it's here, now it's gone. The Eckhart Tolle, cliched notion of the power of now, right? And I hope you understand you're listening to a fellow who could just go onto a stage somewhere and just talk for 45 minutes about books that people become fascinated by, like Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. And, oh, Eckhart Tolle was homeless and poor, and he sat on a fucking park bench for 15 years and thought about the present moment long enough, and now he's some sort of guru. It's like, okay, sure. And old Benton did his own version of that. And old Benton could turn that into a business, or if you need to listen to somebody, if part of the collective cope is to listen to me talk about it for 45 minutes, sure, I can do that. Is that going to amount to a hill of beans? Is any of that ever going to, what good will come of that? So what? Who cares? Yippee skippy, yay for Benton. What about my mortgage? What about my W-2, my 1099, my federal income tax form, whatever that is, the so-called short form? What about tax deductions, and what about my car payment? And until the individual is willing to walk away from all of that, the system has them. So the loving of your house, to love your car, to love your job, to love your church, to love your neighbor, to love all of these things that society was already performing when you left your mama's womb, when you escaped one matrix into this matrix, womb being another word from matrix. Shed my skin. I kicked the habit, kicked the habit, kicked the habit. I shed my skin, shed my skin. This is the new stuff. This is the new stuff. Sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel. Sledgehammer the politicians. Smash, smash, smash. It's right there, man. And the system says, well, if we provide them our own bastardized version of Kybalian half-truth and call it truth, and the individual accepts it at a consensus level, well, good enough, right? Is that good enough to keep them loving their job, loving their neighbor, loving their community, loving their politicians, loving their corporate overlords, loving their dystopia? So distraction from what exactly? Well, the Christ consciousness that's accessible within the Father, so-called, in the code of the Bible, because remember, Christ wouldn't have been free to speak and call it what it was. And so maybe some of the more enlightened in the crowd might wink and want to show off their knowledge and attainment to Christ and say, well, hey, what about the kingdom? Where should we look for that, Lord? Oh, within yourselves. The king, God is love. Air quote, so-called God is love. The kingdom of air quote, so-called God is where in the context of time, space, location, place? It's within you. It's not within me from your perspective. See how that works? It's within you, because in an individuated experience, the philosophy of solipsism has to be valid in a context. Contextually, it has to be valid, because you will never experience as Benton, and Benton will never experience as you. And Benton only is able to access power and meaning within the context of Benton's internal space, within the dead flesh. And so it's already to position the individual where they can remember, okay, well, I've obviously been placed within a context of death. And what would I see? And what would I be in that context? What I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life. So within a vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, accounting, always resolving and accounting for waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. It's to then place that within, to take that justice and righteousness and supreme authority and, quickening spirit and source of all power and all energies, and to place it within the lack of all of that. That is the delusion, Your dead flesh, from within the concepts of what I know, again, I can't, because of solipsism, I can't speak for you. See how it works? So salvation, if that's even a thing, can never be a team sport. Salvation doesn't even exist until you individually discover it and validate it on an ongoing basis. And so that's atheism. That's to say, well, I can't, it's for the individual to say, well, I can't even get that far, Benton. And Benton, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Isn't that what they say? I can't do anything about that. Sorry about your luck. So maybe it is reincarnation and a recycling of souls and a soul trap. So better luck in the next so-called life, Mikey. How'd you like this one? I don't know. Do you get, at the end of this, do you get to rate your experience, right? Please rate your nightmare dystopian beast system overlords. How'd they do this time around? Right? Better luck next time. And so it did become a game, some version of a series of saved games. And did Benton just happen to get incarnated this time around close to, and through a series of mathematical trials of, if there are supposedly billions of individuated beings here, which, remember, that's not even possible. So it's already a delusion, a collective mass delusion. This world is a collective mass delusion. And so then some of the beings would say, well, what's it matter then? Then you're telling me that children are only abused within the context of mass delusion. It's like, well, I don't know. Is that okay? Is it okay for that to be perpetrated? Because remember, what I am can't do that in the first place. And so the accuser will say, well, then how then was what you are, how was it even subverted into making all of this? Right. Well, okay, good question. That's interesting. Hadn't thought about it that way. And the spirit of what I am will quicken and rise above, and that question will answer itself, because John 14:26, the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, will teach all things whatsoever I have said to you. So when I pick up the pamphlet in the laundry room of the truck stop, and it's the King James Version text of the Gospel of John, and on the back somebody's printed their own church's series of rules for being saved and all of this, and it's like, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that, or else. And then I open it and flip to John 14:26, and it says right here, Christ is going to send the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, and that force will teach me all things and bring them to my remembrance. And then when they want to point to 1 John verse 4, chapter whatever, And I say, well, do you see this word whatsoever? That's Christ understanding legalese, and that's a clause. And that whatsoever negates your reference to First John chapter 4. It doesn't matter what's written in First John chapter 4. Because right here, Christ said whatsoever. So what Christ means is this statement is true regardless of what's written anywhere else. So the moment Benton is instructed and understands that he will be taught and instructed directly via that force, it doesn't fucking matter what somebody else says on behalf of a dead scripture somewhere else, because what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life. What life is not being breathed into First John chapter 4 or whatever verse. That's some bullshit fucking crap. It's the GPS structure. Well, we done fucked up. We need a U-turn and we can't get it. Fuck me, this sucks. We done fucked up, y'all. God damn. Add this to the 20,000 reasons why most people would never do this job. We done fucked up. God damn it. Reversing on the fucking highway, 2 in the morning or whatever time it is. This sucks. I hate this shit. This is the worst. Like moss to a flame, the general public's got to peep it and slow down. And oh my God, what's happening? Something's happening. Holy shit. It's like, or you could get the fuck out of here so I don't have to watch you like a hawk while I'm maneuvering a big rig. Or God forbid, people will have to jump in and help. That's the worst. That happened to me in the truck stop yesterday. Fuck, dude. I'm just adding time for no fucking reason when I'm already not in a hurry, but I'm on a schedule. This is fucking bullshit, man. God damn. See, I don't even know if I can make this turn. Fucking hey, dude, that was brutal. One stupid fucking wrong turn created that whole goddamn morass. Jeez Louise. Horrible. Brutal beatings. Self-inflicted. Self-inflicted brutal beatings. Is this closed is the question. I think this fucking road might be closed up here. Can I not get on the turnpike? Now that'd be a trip. Motherfucker, dude. What a disaster. Yeah, every once in a while my GPS fucks me, and it fucked me in this case. Man. Nothing like backing up on a highway for 5 straight minutes. It's one thing about out in the middle of nowhere, the wide ass road can disappear quick, fast, in a hurry. Jeez Louise. That's 10 minutes. I think I just set on fire off of my clock. Just fucking burned it into nothing. 10 minutes. Poof. Gone. I will be all right though. It's not going to matter in the end. My whole day comes down to 10 minutes. We're in trouble. We were always in trouble. It's quite an impressive turnaround, though, I have to say. So I passed the last place I could turn around because I didn't know it was the last place I could turn around. And so I backed up at 4 miles an hour and then like perfectly fucking steered the trailer into the gas station in reverse and just perfectly turned around and went back the way I came. Because for some reason, my stupid GPS, and I'm going to remember for the future, sometimes it's like it'll think it's 1 minute quicker to go all out in the boon, to like go all around the boonies, but it's all fucking expressway all the way to the exit, and it's less than a mile from the exit. But because of the mileage and how it calculates the time, it wants to send me all on these fucking back roads. And so it actually wasted 10 minutes trying to save 1 minute. Now, if it hadn't been road construction, I could have just busted a U-turn because of the time of the morning. I could have just busted a U-turn right there at the intersection and got right back on the turnpike and lost 2 minutes instead of 10 minutes. But either way. Or in this case, if I had missed my exit entirely because of yapping, then the GPS would have automatically recalibrated itself and everything would have been hunky-dory. But see, now I'm going to remember next time. Is it still tripping? Where the fuck are we? Yeah, it's still tripping. All right, hang on. We got to fix this. This thing's lost its fucking mind. Oh, I'm not online. That's the problem. Oh, the hotspot. Okay, I forgot to turn the fucking hotspot back on. That's what did it. When I went into airplane mode earlier to resolve the disconnection, I forgot I had to manually turn the hotspot back on. That's what fucked us. And then when it lost internet connection, for whatever reason, the GPS freaked out. Okay, now I understand. Now I understand what happened. Aha, back on track. And I see what confuses it. I-44 makes this bizarre turn and just starts going completely in the wrong direction. So directionally, it's like the distance we go kind of past where we're eventually going to deliver to. But because of the speed limits and the fact that it's all interstate, it's fucking ridiculous to take that exit back there. I know because I've done it before, and I remember thinking, why the fuck did it send me all the way out here? Because it just sends you like way out into the country. It's just like through towns and shit. It's like, why am I going 35 through a town when there's a perfectly good interstate over there? Like, this doesn't make any sense. It's because it can't account for stop signs and stoplights. And so, again, shout out to Big L. If the GPS can save 1 minute, it will save 1 minute. And that 1 minute cost us 10 minutes in this case. But like I said, it's not going to matter. It's going to be the difference between getting there at 3:17 or 3:16, right? Actually, I could reclaim it if I had to. I could just use the PC, but I'm not going to do that. I'd rather not get in the habit of using the PC. What a disaster. Well, not really a disaster, but so what I'm doing here is my company doesn't, they don't want people. Now, when it suits their delivery schedule, they want me driving at nighttime or early in the morning. But because they work regular hours as much as possible, 8 to 5 or whatever, if it's not necessary from their perspective, they don't want me getting up super fucking early and driving, because sometimes drivers break down at 1 a.m. or whatever. And so all they're ever going to think is, well, this driver didn't have to wake up at 1 a.m. and start driving. But then if the driver's made to be awake all day and is like almost to the truck stop, and they break down and they're going to be done for the night at 1:30 a.m. and they break down at 1 a.m. 30 miles from the truck stop, nobody ever thinks, well, they could have already been parked for the day and not waking us up at 1 in the morning. So you see how the same thing, getting woken up at 1 in the morning because our wrecker's got to be dispatched. Well, see, they try to avoid it when it suits Benton, but then they don't. When it suits them, they don't even think about it. But one way Benton's life is made miserable if I have to stay up all day and then not sleep and try to drive until 1:30 a.m. and try to park at a truck stop at 1:30 a.m. Right, which is damn near impossible most of the time. If I haven't, even if I pay for parking, I still might end up at the fuel island. At least then people can't bitch. It's like, well, I paid for parking and there's no parking, so they told me to park at the fuel island. Yeah, I know you want fuel, but I don't know what to tell you. If you want, I'll pull. I guess I'll pull forward, but you're gonna have to back out because I can't go anywhere. And then I look at the odometer and it's like, why am I the maintenance department? It's like, is it PM time? I don't know. Is it not PM time? The truck's running pretty fucking good. The oil's black, but I mean, I don't know that that's a problem necessarily. But now that it's not, insanely low temperatures, the truck it's starting to sound a little rough, but its truck's running good. Of course, we're not pulling any load either. We're effectively empty because of the tiny amount of freight on the trailer. And this also shows you how just inefficient and bullshit, business and all these systems are. It's like, delivering to these, 5 different service locations from a what's effectively a distribution center in Connecticut all the way across America to Oklahoma. And what's in the trailer wouldn't even begin to fill a box truck. See, but then a box truck, I don't know that they really get any better fuel economy than this thing does. All right. And so now we get more into the, why is this stuff shipped so long distance? And it just sort of shows you what's important in society versus, the onus is on money and, what the fuck? Money and profit over everything. Right. So economically, how can it make sense in the long run to do that? Right. I don't know. And you want to talk about common sense? Well, that's not a thing. If that was a thing, we couldn't be putting, such a tiny amount of freight. I mean, you could just basically FedEx overnight the stuff, right? I mean, I would think. I guess there's a few items that might not be able to overnight them. I don't know. It's curious. The math don't math at some point, right? Wow, this road is fucked. Wow, dude. We go to one lane through here, but it's not obvious that oh, that's not even one lane. Wow, dude, that's a hazardous stretch of road. These two rigs almost, if they weren't both paying attention and good drivers, that would have been a wreck right there. Dude, Oklahoma, life is cheap, motherfuckers. We're near Tulsa, where life perhaps is particularly cheap. A lot of horrible shit goes down in this area, both now and historically. If anybody follows the true crime and there was some teenage boy or man, young man, who basically, if anybody ever looked into the Roman Polanski, the movie director, and the sweetheart deal he got for his sex crimes and rape, uh, it's something akin to that. A slap on the wrist for, people can have an opinion on what may have happened between him and the victims, but the actual crimes he's convicted of are extremely severe, legally speaking. So that was somewhere in this area, general vicinity of Tulsa. So that kid teacher, that 20-something teacher that murked those parents in Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas, I believe he was from this area somewhere, and maybe had taught over here near Tulsa, and then um, we had an Arkansas State trooper that uncharacteristically, I watched the body cam and or the dash cam, and he in a traffic stop, he treated some people in what I would consider to be a racist manner that I would never ever expect a Arkansas State trooper who was born and raised in Arkansas. And so as soon as I saw that, I said, "Well, where's this guy from?" Because that doesn't look like any Arkansas State trooper I've ever heard of. And I Googled it, and he's from this area of Oklahoma, from near Tulsa. I said, okay, now it makes sense. He grew up over there, and he brought that shit to my state, because we don't play that. Now, maybe some people are, I'm not saying nobody from Arkansas is racist. I'm saying the ones who become Arkansas State troopers don't treat the black folks that way, because the state trooper probably grew up in some type of area similar to where they're working. Or you just sort of understand, hey, these are regular people. These aren't, whatever the crackers growing up in Tulsa area are taught that black people are. This is, the people from Arkansas are taught something very different in my experience. And what it was is to pull these people over based on a profile. And because that's a black person driving that type of car, therefore they must be engaged in these specific criminal activities, and then to treat them as if they've been adjudicated as guilty for those crimes, right? Some version of Judge Dredd. And it's like, yeah, we don't do that in Arkansas. And those same exact crimes, these white boys running around this part of Arkansas are just as likely to be engaging in those behaviors, which it also means, or just as unlikely as it may be. So, you know, and so you're going to have to do actual fucking police work and catch them doing the thing first before you treat them like they're doing the thing. Right? And he's going to quickly find out that Arkansas ain't having it. You better take your ass back to Oklahoma, partner. And see, this is another thing. People can't, they think they can just, because of economics, they think they can just move somewhere. Yeah, maybe, maybe not. Like, I couldn't just fucking move to Tulsa. There's no fucking way. At some point, I'd be like, I'm out of here. I can't jive with what they got going on here. But then, you know, where I'm from, it's not, that doesn't mean it's perfect. It's like, well, yeah, there's going to be things going on there that it's like, how could y'all put up with this? I don't know, man. That's just the way it is. It's the way it was when I was growing up. I mean, we don't expect it to change. So. And so the person from Tulsa would be like, well, fuck this, I'm out. Move to Pine Bluff, Arkansas to go work in a casino. Well, Tulsa's got a casino, but either way. Well, a lot of casinos. That's not the point. Well, I guess we're wrapping up. I got about 7 minutes. And once I get there, I need to jump out, open the doors, and back in because, and I'll finish up talking about the company and what they want because they don't want me. They've already were trying to ride my ass yesterday, telling me not to start my clock too early. But it's like, and so I'm trying to explain to the dispatcher how the split break works. But I think really what it is these are bullshit artists. And they've trained themselves to only hear what they want to hear and to pretend. And again, like Orwellian, 1984, Orwell's 84, sort of a victory over one's own mind and memory, right? Because when I say split break, really all I mean is I'm going to extend my 14. So if I get there at 3:26 a.m. and I don't leave until 7, let's just say I leave at 6:30, then I've turned the 14 into a 17 because of the split break. So the moment I'm off duty for 2 hours, it retroactively pauses that 14, meaning when I go off duty, if I take a picture of my 14 and my 11, if you fast forward 2 hours, it will look exactly the same. And then it will continue to look the same until I go back on duty or start driving. And then the clock will start ticking again. Now, the only way to go into violation, assuming I'm never going to exceed that 11, as long as I'm never going to drive more than 11 hours, the only way to go into violation would be to forget to switch into sleeper berth when I go to sleep tonight, which could happen. But, even if it does, I can still edit my logs. Right now, maybe they just don't like getting notified in the middle of the night that some driver, and now they get a notification and now they're awakened in the middle of the night because the driver can't remember to go into sleeper berth. Now, if they just said it that way and said, hey, man, we understand what you're saying. We just don't want to get woken up with an alert. I'll say, oh, okay, I get it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set a reminder on my phone. I'm going to write a note to myself and I'm going to tape it to the fucking dashboard on a piece of cardboard. It's going to say sleeper berth. And that's going to remind me when I stop my shift to go into the sleeper berth for at least 7 hours. So you won't get woken up tonight with an alert. Maybe that's what it is. But you can't talk to most drivers that way. Because most drivers have a beef, they're disgruntled, and it's like, well, you sent me to a glorified goat path in a West Virginia holler last week, so fuck you, right? It's like, well, no, I called and woke the owner of the company up at 6 a.m. his time. I'd like to deliver my middle fingers, myself personally, aggressively, not passive. We don't need a passive aggressive middle finger when we can give an actual middle finger. Hey, buddy, fuck you. It's basically what that phone call amounted to. Wake up so I can say fuck you. And all right, good talking to you. And remember to eat a bag of dicks. Bye. You know, that's funny. Anyway, we're there. Bye.